Hello everyone, welcome to the Farnborough International Airshow 2026. We're really excited to be here. We're in the Honeywell Aerospace Chalet, delighted to be joined by Doug Martens, who is the Senior Director for Advanced Air Mobility. Doug, let's get straight to it. Thank you so much for joining us. The conversation then surrounding advanced air mobility has evolved significantly in recent years. Are we now entering the industry's deployment phase? And what distinguishes this stage from earlier years of hype?
Yeah, it's amazing what's changed in the last 6 years. So we've went from the stages of people talking about what they're going to do to actually now seeing what's happening. And we're moving from into the implementation. So we're seeing certifications coming up of the next vehicles, what Joby and Vertigo and Archer are doing, amazing. And then the bigger thing that's changing is the ecosystem. People are really now starting to think about, well, how do we actually bring these and build the ecosystem to make them work? So the ground infrastructure, their traffic control changes that may need to be made. How do you operate so many vehicles together in airspace? So it's changing, right? We're now moving from worried about the vehicle to now worried about how we actually operate the whole ecosystem. So
perfect. And we talk about eVTOL aircraft, autonomous drones, as they're moving to commercial operations, as you mentioned in your previous answer then. What are the key technologies and digital infrastructure needed to enable their safe integration? I've got down European airspace, and I guess that's relevant because we're at Farnborough, but as a whole from the US as well. Can you kind of elaborate on that too, please?
Yeah, I think everybody's recognizing that for the amount of aircraft, drones, large cargo drones, the eVTOL aircraft, for them to integrate into the national airspace in Europe or the US, it doesn't support, the current infrastructure really doesn't support what needs to happen. So everybody's recognizing now it needs to be digitized in different ways, which means securing communication between the aircraft and ground, and also between the ground control station and the air traffic controllers plus the aircraft. So it's really now changing how that ecosystem's looked at, and that's really where we're seeing this acceleration of projects into, like what we're doing on the Vertigo project with the SESAR 3 program, which is a consortium of 12 different OEMs that are coming together to help identify and enable those gaps that are now being seen.
Perfect. And I think really key to talk about safety, certification as well. Real central themes, I think, for this sector. Can I ask, what progress has been made? What still needs then to happen before we start seeing routine AAM operations? And I know we all know in the industry as well, it's going to be very early stage early start. So can you talk a bit more on the safety and certification side, please?
So from a safety and certification perspective, we now have a better idea of what needs to be done. So EASA has released what they require for certifying eVTOL aircraft. So it's given the OEMs a path to say, okay, here's what I need to do to certify my aircraft. And OEMs, and I should say equipment manufacturers like Honeywell Aerospace, a path for what we need to do with our systems to certify onto those aircraft, enable the OEMs to certify their aircraft, like what we're doing with our fly-by-wire systems and actuation and attune air conditioning, cabin management system. So it's really the enablers are coming in place to help us get to the end.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Doug. And can I just ask, we talked a bit about the technological side, public acceptance, just as important, I feel, as well. How can then the public build that, how can the industry build that trust amongst regulators, operators, and even the traveling public as these aircraft then do enter service?
And that's been a difficult one, right? So we've seen that be the most challenging for this new aviation sector. So what we're actually seeing, which is really exciting, is like at air shows like Farnborough, you'll see Beta and Vertigo fly. Last year at Dubai Air Show, Joby flew. So to get the aircraft more in the public and get them seeing the aircraft and see them operate and operate safely initially at air shows and through the press and media, that's all bringing confidence into the sector of saying, okay, acceptance, I want to fly in that. That's it's really interesting. So we're seeing that in steps. It's going to be a long process, though.
No, I completely agree, Doug, as well. And thank you for that. And we talk also about collaboration among manufacturers. And I think it's important, with Farnborough, Dubai, Paris, any of the air shows, we see a lot of these partnerships coming up as well. And we're looking forward to an exciting week at Farnborough this week too. Where then have you seen the strongest examples of that collaboration, and where would you say more work's needed? And without wanting to be pessimistic, it's still trying to put all the pieces of the jigsaw together.
Yeah, so what I see is that aircraft systems, like what Honeywell Aerospace is providing to industry, so between that and what the OEMs are doing, those relationships have become really strong, right? To how we enable the aircraft and go and bring them to be reality and certified. What's a gap right now and is being filled is the ATM. So how do we bring the air traffic control system into play that it's ready for these vehicles? And then the ground infrastructure, the charging that needs to be here, and those things that need to be in the vertiports that need to be built. That's the next challenges. We're seeing some progress, but not the progress that needs to be made to get to the end goal. So,
No. Thank you for that as well. And I guess as well as talking about fully electric aircraft, we're also seeing a lot of interest in hybrid electric platforms. What does that tell us about how the market is evolving, and how do you feel about those technologies coexisting?
it's excellent, right? So the full battery electric gives you a certain business you can go operate. It has some limitations on how far you can fly a vehicle. The next generation is to evolve that to other power sources, to continue taking advantage of electric powered aircraft, but now to extend the range, like turbogen technology that we're building, and then others that are looking at hydrogen technology. So all these technologies that are coming out to provide longer range aircraft and different missions that they can go fly. So cargo missions and things like that that are viable for this type of aircraft and still leverage the battery electric infrastructure.
Perfect. And you mentioned cargo as well, and I'd love to touch on innovation in autonomy. So that's certainly accelerated rapidly as well, driven in part to developments in the defence sector. How will then those advances helping to shape the future of commercial advanced air mobility? Autonomy is a bit of a buzzword that a lot of people are talking about. Can I ask your thoughts on that, if you don't mind?
It's amazing what's happened in the military space. It's accelerating the technology, how autonomy is applied, the buzz term AI here and there. But what it's really doing is accelerating how the aircraft can be operated in different missions and how autonomous operations can occur, what technologies need to be on those aircraft to enable it. So those technologies that are being enabled on the military side are coming over to the commercial side, and we're leveraging off the military development for the commercial guys. So
perfect. And we're here at Farnborough. It's going to be a busy week for you and the team at Honeywell Aerospace as well. What then would you say are the next major regulatory and operation milestones the industry will watch? I know there's a lot of talk on the EIPP program earlier this year as well. Any other milestones that you think we should look forward to?
So there'll be that. The Vertigo program will be an interesting one with a consortium to enable the next gen ATM, looking at the next gen ATM technologies here in Europe for the SESAR 3 program. Operations just starting, right? The first aircraft starting to operate under limited use cases, and then the large cargo drones will bring the next also coming into the airspace and starting operations. So
perfect. And then just finally, Honeywell Aerospace been working on a lot of technology to support that safe integration of advanced air mobility into existing airspace. From your perspective then, where can technology providers have the greatest impact in helping the industry scale that safely?
It's basically bringing the next gen technologies to enable safe operation. So how do we make sure aircraft stay separated? How do we make sure landing zones are clear when the vehicles come into land? So it's all the technologies working cohesively together in order to make the vehicles fly safely. So it's really changing from that perspective of we do it today, but now it's new technologies that need to come in to enable these aircraft to fly safely.
Perfect. Doug, thank you very much. And just a very final question, because I'm conscious of the time we've got as well. So eVTOL Insights are working with AMCI now, and so it's a STEM initiative. We're really keen to bring some of the students, K-12 students, to bring into the aviation as well. So one of the questions they've asked us to ask during the show is, how do you make a tiny moving part strong enough to help control a much larger aircraft as well? I've put Doug on the spot here a bit, everyone, but would welcome your thoughts just for this initiative, which is so important to bring the students to these conversations.
Well, it's cool, right? We love STEM programs. Honeywell's a big supporter of the STEM activities, and this is a very interesting question around how you make a small moving part. You can think of it like when your control surface. It's made up a whole bunch of small moving parts that control a large surface that make the aircraft move left and right. And that all has to do with basically look at engineering. You need to go back and how we look at materials, so a different type of materials. Like if you take a stick and try to break it, but if you take a metal rod and try to break it, you're not going to. They may be the same diameter, but you can't. And that's how you make small things really strong, is by the type of materials you use and then how you machine it or how you manufacture it.
Perfect. Well, Doug, thank you so much for talking to us today as well. Have a good week this week at Farnborough. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.